Imagine waking up to the roar of machinery destroying your peaceful gravel driveway, the one you bought to escape the HOA's grip. They paved it over, called it community property, and demanded I pay thousands in fees. But as a retired developer, I had connections they never saw coming, and suddenly, every elite HOA car in the neighborhood just disappeared. The chill of early morning often brings a sense of peace, but for Ethan Stone it brought the acrid stench of fresh asphalt and a burning fury that would change everything. Just 3 years after he and his beloved wife Olivia had sought refuge in their private Texas Hill Country haven, their gravel driveway, a sanctuary from the very HOA they'd meticulously avoided, was gone. Paved over. His carefully placed fence posts lay shattered, surveyor markers obliterated. Then, the letter. Not an apology, but a bill for $3,200 for a community upgrade, demanding ongoing maintenance fees from Victoria Hayes, the HOA president whose arrogance practically dripped from the page. She dared to claim his rustic road needed proper standards. Oh, if only she knew. Ethan, a retired commercial developer, held a secret, a deep network of towing contracts across the county. By dawn, every single vehicle belonging to her self-proclaimed HOA elite had vanished into the Texas air, as if they'd never existed. What would you have done? Wouldn't you fight for what's yours? Ethan and Olivia, a practical high school principal with a laugh that could soothe any storm, had poured their life savings into their 3-acre dream, a secluded property connected by a beautiful gravel path. It crunched under tires like breakfast cereal, naturally slowing cars, and offering the peace they craved for their daughter Lily, a bright 15-year-old navigating college prep. The key was that private access road, purchased separately for $80,000, explicitly outside HOA jurisdiction thanks to the foresight of the previous owner, Old Man Miller. Their evenings, once filled with mockingbird songs and Olivia's fragrant jasmine, were sacred. Then came Victoria. Imagine the most entitled real estate agent, multiply her by 10, then arm her with a gavel and an HOA presidency. Her white BMW X5, with its prop queen vanity plates, was a monument to her self-importance. For 3 years she'd terrorized the neighborhood, suing for everything from mailbox colors to bird feeder activity, even carrying a ruler to measure grass height. She called it premium community management, a euphemism for extorting homeowners and inflating her real estate profits, twisting reasonable requests into dire emergencies. The nightmare began on a Tuesday. Ethan's morning coffee was interrupted by the roar of heavy machinery. Outside his kitchen window, asphalt swallowed his gravel road. The foreman, clutching a work order signed by Victoria for a Willowbrook grand entrance, confirmed his worst fears. His property was being erased. Fence posts ripped up, surveyor markers destroyed, and decorative stone pillars now declared his private entrance a community thoroughfare. His property rights literally paved over. Raging, Ethan confronted Victoria at the HOA office, her smile a razor's edge, her expensive perfume a cloud of condescension. "We're bringing your rustic access up to community standards," she purred, showcasing a map with his road highlighted in future community thoroughfare yellow. She claimed Old Man Miller had verbally agreed to road sharing. No documentation, of course, just her word against a dead man's. The next day, a certified letter confirmed the $3,200 assessment, $85 monthly fees, and demands for community standard landscaping. Threats of liens and legal action followed. Olivia was beside herself, cabinet doors slamming with her fury. Lily's friends, oblivious, turned their new asphalt driveway into a noisy skate park. But Victoria didn't know about the ironclad deed language Old Man Miller had enshrined, language that would make her legal team regret ever hearing Ethan's name. Victoria, basking in her perceived victory, quickly erected more grand entrance markers. The gleaming brass plaques proudly proclaimed Willowbrook Commons Grand Entrance, established 2023. The sheer audacity. She'd branded his private property as her own. But Victoria's thirst for control was insatiable. Next came the uniformed security guard, patrolling what she now called the community thoroughfare. One morning, as Ethan left for supplies, a rent-a-cop flagged him down on his own driveway. "ID and authorization, sir, for this community access road," he demanded. Ethan's mouth filled with the metallic taste of pure rage. "This is my property. That's my house," he declared, his voice a strained calm. The guard shrugged, citing community safety protocols. Carted to drive to his own home. It was absurd, but Ethan, with his construction background, recognized the tactic: create a fait accompli with security theater to intimidate property owners. Extortion, plain and simple. The next morning, Ethan filed a complaint. Most people don't realize, everything in construction requires permits. Victoria's crew had violated at least 3 municipal codes. County records confirmed it: 0 permits. Within 48 hours, a bright orange stop work order flapped in the Texas wind from Victoria's grand pillars. a sight sweeter than Christmas morning. Predictably, Victoria retaliated. At an emergency HOA meeting where Ethan was conspicuously uninvited, Marcus Macmillan, a retired Marine with keen hearing, overheard Victoria ranting about Ethan obstructing community progress. The board, a rubber stamp for Victoria, unanimously voted to fine Ethan $500 a day for failing to maintain his own private road to her standards. The sheer gall was almost impressive. Then came the certified letter, declaring Ethan persona non grata in his own neighborhood, banned from his own land. Even the post office clerk looked embarrassed, but Victoria's psychological warfare was just beginning. She launched a community awareness campaign, turning neighbors into an unwitting PR firm, spreading lies that Ethan's road endangered school buses and would tank property values. Olivia returned from grocery shopping, visibly shaken, after 3 neighbors ambushed her with concerned warnings. The scent of her usual lavender shampoo was drowned out by the stress of the encounter. "They made you sound like a criminal," Olivia cried, her hands trembling. "Janet even asked if we needed to sell." While Victoria played politics, Ethan was playing a longer game. He hired his former partner David Chen, now a traffic engineering consultant, for a GPS-accurate land survey. Cost $3,200, the exact amount Victoria tried to bill him. Poetic justice, indeed. He also brought in Detective Ryan MacMacArthur, a retired sheriff's deputy with a knack for unearthing buried public records. Within 3 days, Mac uncovered Victoria's secret. For 18 months, she'd been buying surrounding properties through shell companies. The pieces clicked. Ethan remembered prescriptive easement from his contractor days, property rights through long-term use, but it required 10+ years of continuous documented use. Impossible, since Ethan had gated his road every winter until 2019, and Old Man Miller had done the same since 1987. Ethan had receipts for everything: gates, private property signs, snow plowing. Victoria's claims were as solid as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. A cease and desist arrived from a prominent law firm, the same one that handled Ethan's business sale years ago. They knew he had money, which made their threat of a $50,000 lawsuit for destroying community property, his survey stakes, even more infuriating. The irony was bitter. Olivia found him in the garage, organizing files. "You look like a general planning a campaign," she chuckled. "Funny you should say that," Ethan replied, pulling out Old Man Miller's meticulously crafted deed restrictions, "because that's exactly what this is." Victoria's subtlety vanished. Her next move was pure theater: beautification walks. Groups of 810 HOA supporters, led by Victoria with her clipboard, paraded past their house daily, photographing, pointing, and whispering like neighborhood paparazzi. The clicking shutters replaced their precious bird songs. Lily started closing her curtains. "It's like living in a fishbowl," she despaired. Facebook posts appeared, innocent photos of their home with snide captions, interesting landscaping choices. "Wonder if this meets fire safety standards." The comment sections devolved into digital lynch mobs, dissecting everything from their mailbox to Olivia's garden gnomes. Then came Victoria's administrative masterpiece. The county planning office lost Ethan's original survey documents. A new clerk, a Victoria look-alike with the same last name, claimed no record existed. "You'll need to reapply for a driveway access permit," she chirped, a smile that could freeze hell on her lips. "A $2,800 fee, and it takes 6 to 8 months, during which time your road access will be questionable." A shakedown, pure and simple. While Ethan battled bureaucracy, Mac's investigation deepened. His background check revealed Victoria's true ambition: a suburban real estate vampire, assembling a property empire through 6 shell LLCs. Aerial photos showed her owning land on 3 sides of Ethan's property. Her master plan wasn't about road access, it was about combining smaller parcels for a multi-million-dollar luxury estate development. Ethan's 3 acres were the keystone, the last holdout. Without it, her entire investment was worthless. Then the sabotage began. A brutal Texas heatwave, and their irrigation system failed. Someone had surgically cut their main water line under the new asphalt. Before Ethan could even call a plumber, Victoria called, dripping with mock concern. "Mr. Stone, I understand you're planning to destroy community infrastructure. That will require board approval and a $5,000 damage deposit." She'd sabotaged his property, then tried to extort him to fix her damage. It was like being mugged, then offered a premium-priced bandage by the mugger. The law firm escalated, filing an injunction to prevent Ethan from interfering with community road maintenance, demanding removal of his survey stakes and private property signs, claiming harassment. This was a classic legal tactic: tie up opponents in costly battles while continuing the offensive, draining their wallet before the real fight even began. But a beautiful resistance was forming. Mark, the retired Marine, offered security cameras. Dr. Isabella Ramirez shared horror stories that made Ethan's look like amateur hour. Carol Jenkins, a teacher with organizational skills that would shame the Pentagon, revealed Victoria had lowballed her for her corner lot. When Carol refused, her garbage pickup mysteriously stopped. Victoria wasn't just targeting Ethan, she was systematically harassing anyone who wouldn't sell. The tax bomb dropped. The county re-evaluated his property based on the improvements, skyrocketing his annual taxes from $4,200 to $7. Appealing required paying up front, another financial pressure tactic. That evening on their porch, watching the sunset through a haze of construction dust and exhaust, Olivia observed, "She's getting desperate." "Good," Ethan replied, texting Mac. "Desperate people make stupid mistakes." Victoria's next move was pure theater, an informal mediation at the county commissioner's office. Informal in construction days meant someone was about to get formally screwed. Ethan walked into a corporate takeover meeting, 12 HOA board members, Victoria's attorney, and a bullet-thick presentation. Commissioner Robert "Bob" Davis, looking like a hostage, watched as Victoria, with mathematical audacity, proposed Ethan sell his $80,000 road easement for $15,000. "A generous offer," she purred, sliding the folder across the table, her expensive perfume failing to mask the stench of desperation. Ethan stood, straightened his jacket, and calmly countered, "I'll consider your offer right after you consider my counterproposal of zero and a public apology." He walked out, leaving them to explain their legal charade to the commissioners. The real war began with a front-page newspaper article. "Property dispute divides Willowbrook." Victoria had coached the reporter, painting herself as a reasonable leader against a selfish neighbor. Ethan got one buried paragraph. The aerial photo was propaganda, his house a stubborn island against modern progress. Online, comments became a digital gladiator arena. While Victoria played media mogul, Ethan built his counteroffensive. Mark's trail cameras were a daily Christmas, capturing Victoria's crew removing stakes at 2 a.m., dumping debris, and her security guard harassing Lily. Victoria's psychological warfare expanded. His homeowner's insurance suddenly demanded an extra $4,000 annually for commercial liability exposure due to an anonymous complaint. Ethan knew this playbook, systematically destroying financial stability from multiple angles. It was a coordinated campaign to force a quick sale. Workplace intimidation confirmed it. Olivia came home pale, shaking after an informal chat with a school board member. An anonymous complaint suggested Ethan's hostile legal behavior reflected poorly on her professional judgment. They targeted her livelihood. But Victoria didn't realize workplace intimidation for property transactions fell under federal civil rights law. She was building his lawsuit for him. Her legal Hail Mary was a city planning commission petition to reclassify his road as a public thoroughfare. If successful, the city could seize it via eminent domain for token compensation, maybe $1. The public hearing, scheduled for next month, would be packed with angry neighbors. But Ethan's secret weapon was growing. Dr. Ramirez uncovered precedents making Victoria's case Swiss cheese. Mark documented every harassment incident. Carol launched a social media counter-campaign exposing Victoria's shell companies. Mac's financial dive found the smoking gun. Victoria was hemorrhaging money. Her shell companies owed $340,000. Her credit cards maxed at $67,000. And her real estate license was under state investigation. She was 90 days from bankruptcy without this deal. Ethan's refusal wasn't just blocking a development, it was threatening her financial survival. Utility warfare followed. Anonymous complaints about power lines crossing the community road triggered an $8,500 relocation study. His internet mysteriously failed, requiring expensive repairs. That evening, Olivia found a note on her windshield. "Stop your husband before this gets worse." Her hands were steady, but her eyes held fear. "She's getting desperate," Olivia said. "Good," Ethan replied, photographing the note. "Desperate people make career-ending mistakes." Mac found their ultimate smoking gun in the courthouse basement, a filing cabinet untouched since Reagan. The musty smell was worth every sneeze. Old Man Miller, that brilliant rancher, had played four-dimensional chess in the original deed restrictions, language that would make any property lawyer weep, declared, "Access road shall remain private property in perpetuity, not subject to any homeowner association covenants, assessments, or interference whatsoever. In perpetuity, forever, notarized, triplicated, cross-referenced." Old Man Miller had protected his God-given right to drive on his own damn land. Ethan wanted to build a shrine to that cantankerous cowboy, but Mac's corporate investigation revealed more. Victoria's shell companies weren't just buying, they were borrowing massive money, using projected HOA income as collateral. Community development partners had borrowed $2.4 million from 3 banks, promising repayment through increased HOA fees from expanded membership. The entire scheme needed his area rezoned as a luxury estate community. Without Ethan's property, Victoria's empire would collapse like a house of cards in a tornado. Ethan sat, the bitter taste of realization filling his mouth. Victoria had borrowed against future HOA assessments, expecting to force him into membership within 6 months. Quarterly loan payments were due in 8 weeks. Without rezoning, she'd default on $2.4 million plus personal investments. She wasn't just harassing for sport, she was fighting for her financial life. The corruption ran deeper. Commissioner Davis wasn't just rubber-stamping permits, he was Victoria's brother-in-law. His construction company had pocketed $47,000 in no-bid HOA contracts for emergency improvements requiring permits only he could approve. Mac documented 17 procedural violations, textbook racketeering. The insurance fraud was artful. Victoria had filed claims against 3 previous holdouts, collecting $89,000 in settlements for property damage and psychological trauma. Insurers paid small claims, unwittingly funding her intimidation campaign. She was getting paid to terrorize neighbors, a suburban mob boss. Environmental violations added federal criminal exposure. EPA records showed illegal wetland drainage diversion. Federal law carried $37,500 daily penalties and criminal charges against permit signers. Commissioner Davis's signature was on every fraudulent waiver. RICO enterprise, Ethan thought, remembering his construction days. This was an organized criminal operation, using intimidation and fraud for financial gain, with penalties including triple damages and 20-year prison sentences. Olivia found Ethan in the kitchen, surrounded by Mac's files, grinning like he'd struck oil. "You look different," she said. "I feel different," he replied. "For the first time, I'm not playing defense." The power dynamic had shifted. Victoria needed his cooperation to avoid financial ruin and federal prosecution. She just didn't know it yet. Knowledge is power, but organized knowledge is a weapon of mass destruction. That weekend, their garage became the war room. Maps, legal documents, timelines, battle plans for D-Day. Mark brought military planning expertise and surveillance gear. Dr. Ramirez contributed legal research and medical documentation of stress symptoms. Carol arrived with organizational superpowers and color-coded folders. "Looks like a boring movie set, or the most interesting garage sale in Texas history," Olivia quipped. Ethan's first call, attorney Laura Sterling, Dallas's most feared property rights attorney, 94% win rate, known for making opposing counsel weep. Her strategy, simultaneous quiet title action and federal environmental complaint, filed the same day as the HOA's public hearing. "We'll shift the burden of proof to them while exposing the entire financial fraud," Laura explained. "By the time they realize what hit them, they'll be defending criminal charges instead of attacking your property rights." The evidence compilation took 3 days, 847 photos, 23 hours of video, 156 documents, a timeline of escalating criminal behavior. Victoria's harassment was a textbook SLAPP suit, designed to intimidate, not win. Texas had strong anti-SLAPP statutes, meaning she'd be paying his legal bills. Laura's financial warfare was elegant, an insurance claim against the HOA's liability policy for property damage. This triggered an investigation. Fraudulent applications or undisclosed risks meant voided policies, leaving board members personally liable. The public relations counteroffensive launched Tuesday. Carol helped Olivia create a Facebook group, Willowbrook Property Rights Alliance, sharing the truth about Victoria's shell companies. Dr. Ramirez penned academic-level posts about HOA overreach that hit like sledgehammers. Mark shared military perspectives on proportional response. Within 48 hours, 127 residents joined, sharing their own horror stories. Ethan's secret weapon, Joe Miller, owner of Miller Recovery Services. Joe specialized in HOA towing and knew everyone. When Ethan explained, Joe's weathered face broke into a rattlesnake terrifying grin. "That woman owes my company $12,000 for unpaid services," Joe revealed, pulling a thick file. "Been trying to collect for 8 months. You know what that means?" Ethan knew. Mechanics' liens took priority, forcing asset sales. Joe's unpaid bills created a legal claim against HOA common areas, threatening Victoria's entire financial structure. The community intelligence network expanded. 5 neighbors volunteered as early warning systems, monitoring meetings, permits, construction, social media. Mark set up encrypted messaging, NSA proud. Dr. Ramirez recruited allies on the City Planning Commission and School Board, weary of Victoria's heavy hand. Environmental documentation from a wetland specialist confirmed EPA violations, serious enough for federal criminal investigation. Local investigative reporter Jessica Riley showed serious interest. HOA president's secret business empire built on neighbor harassment and municipal fraud. Jessica, an award-winning corruption exposer, agreed to hold publication until filings were complete. Dr. Ramirez's psychological profile was chilling. Victoria exhibited classic narcissistic rage spiral behavior, escalating aggression when challenged. "We need to be ready for her to completely lose control," Dr. Ramirez warned. "When narcissists face public humiliation, they often become dangerous." Laura's legal trap was elegant deception, preliminary paperwork filed but not served, creating the false impression Ethan was backing down. This would encourage Victoria to escalate, hopefully committing more documented crimes before their coordinated legal, media, and enforcement response. That Thursday, Ethan stood in his war room, a general on the eve of battle. Olivia squeezed his shoulder, her touch grounding him. "Ready?" she asked simply. "More than ready," he replied, looking at their battle plan. "It's time to end this." Victoria's desperation reached new artistic heights Tuesday night. Around midnight, unmarked trucks rumbled past their window. The acrid smell of asphalt and diesel drifted through their AC. A crew, under floodlights, installed speed bumps and residents-only signs. Mark's cameras captured everything: license plates, faces, and Victoria herself, in a pink tracksuit and designer sneakers, barking orders at 2 a.m., while neighbors' porch lights flickered on. Comedy gold. Her plan was transparent: permanent modifications, then claim Ethan wasn't a real community member. But her next move crossed a line. Thursday afternoon, Olivia was loading groceries when Victoria approached in the school parking lot, a predatory smile on her face. "Olivia, honey," she purred, dripping false concern. "I know this has been stressful. I'll offer $25,000 cash if Ethan drops this ridiculous lawsuit." Olivia, bless her heart, had the presence of mind to record on her phone. Pure gold. Victoria admitted the money came from the Community Improvement Fund, embezzled HOA dues, Mac had proven, bribery with stolen money. On camera. "Think about Lily's college fund," Victoria pressed, oblivious. "This legal mess could drag on for years, and cost you everything." Olivia's response earned a standing ovation. "The only thing costing us everything is dealing with criminals who think private property is their personal piggy bank." Meanwhile, Mac's investigation into Commissioner Davis bore fruit. The building inspector who approved Victoria's permits had never visited the site. Approvals were rubber-stamped via email with backdated digital signatures. The state attorney general's office opened a formal investigation. The harassment escalated to Cold War-level psychological warfare. Anonymous flyers claimed Ethan ran an illegal business. False complaints about hazardous materials flooded the fire marshal's office. Someone even called Child Protective Services with bogus reports, forcing Olivia to take time off for a home inspection that found nothing. Lily's college applications were delayed by address verification issues unique to their household. She maintained straight A's through harassment that would break most adults. Ethan's fury burned hotter. Property damage escalated. Friday night their mailbox was destroyed by vandals. Mark's cameras caught 2 HOA board members with a baseball bat at 3 a.m. Expensive landscaping was poisoned, brown patches spelling move. Hoses were cut, flooding their basement. The final insult: bright orange paint splattered on their house siding, a suburban scarlet letter. Mark the troublemaker. Ethan knew this. Vandalism and intimidation meant serious time pressure. Victoria was facing a deadline he didn't fully grasp. The community was splitting. Victoria's emergency HOA meeting to expel disruptive members devolved into a shouting match when Dr. Ramirez demanded financial transparency. Mark challenged the board's authority. Carol's questions about shell company expenditures reduced the treasurer to stammering. 3 more families withdrew, citing irregularities and harassment. The exodus accelerated. Social media warfare raged with fake accounts, threatening Olivia's job and safety. Lily was bullied at school, but beneath the chaos, law enforcement finally paid attention. The deputy who witnessed the mailbox destruction filed a report and increased patrols, recognizing several HOA supporters from previous domestic violence calls. Saturday evening on their porch, watching a security patrol's cigarette smoke drift across their property line, Olivia's hand found Ethan's. "She's going to try something bigger," Olivia whispered. "I can feel it." "Good," Ethan replied, thinking of Laura's legal trap and Joe's tow trucks. Let her dig the hole deeper. Victoria's final gambit: Community Action Day, a grassroots beautification project complete with barbecue and lemonade. The event page looked wholesome. The real agenda: 20-plus neighbors armed with bolt cutters, sledgehammers, and righteous indignation, targeting every survey marker, camera, and sign on Ethan's land. Saturday morning, pickup trucks and SUVs converged, a suburban militia. Gasoline fumes from chainsaws, metallic clanks of tools. Ethan had been expecting it. Mark was strategically positioned with video. Mac coordinated with the sheriff's department. Olivia and Lily were safely in Austin. Victoria emerged from her BMW, a general inspecting troops, bolt cutters gleaming, wearing matching Willowbrook Pride t-shirts. Property destruction as team building. Morning neighbors, she chirped, her voice dripping real estate enthusiasm. Ready to bring this corner up to proper standards? The crowd cheered. Surreal. Then Ethan walked out, video camera in hand, with Deputy Rodriguez, the no-nonsense veteran who documented Victoria's escalation. Rodriguez's presence transformed the party into an awkward standoff. "Folks need to step back," he announced, hand on his radio. "This is private land, and you're trespassing." Victoria's response was pure theater. Clutching bolt cutters, she screamed about harassment of tax-paying citizens, accusing the deputy of being in Ethan's pocket. "This man is destroying our community," she shrieked, pointing at Ethan. "We have every right to protect our property values." Rodriguez's patience snapped. When Victoria stepped onto Ethan's land, cutting tools in hand, screaming threats, he'd seen enough. The metallic click of handcuffs echoed. 2 enthusiastic volunteers joined her, all cited for criminal trespassing. Victoria's media strategy backfired spectacularly. She'd called a local TV news crew, expecting a sympathetic story. Instead, they filmed her arrest, bolt cutters in hand, ranting. Reporter Jessica Riley, who'd been quietly investigating, focused on environmental violations and municipal corruption. Victoria's on-camera meltdown included admissions about forcing property sales and bringing non-conforming neighbors into compliance, music to federal prosecutors' ears. The footage of her supporters in matching t-shirts, vandalizing, was comedy gold. Victoria spent 72 hours in county jail, her $50,000 bond unattainable, accounts frozen. Her mugshot hit the evening news alongside Jessica's report. Systematic HOA corruption, environmental crime. The woman who terrorized neighbors finally got the public attention she craved. Her financial empire collapsed like dominoes. Banks froze shell company accounts. 3 families received foreclosure notices on properties managed by her. The HOA's insurance canceled their policy, leaving board members personally liable. Carol's investigation found the smoking gun. Victoria had embezzled $127,000 from community improvement funds to cover her failing investments. The annual HOA audit, conducted by her brother-in-law's firm. 15 families demanded an emergency board meeting. Dr. Ramirez was nominated president by acclamation. Mark and Carol became financial oversight. The new board apologized to harassment victims, implementing transparency. The FBI's Financial Crimes Unit, alerted by EPA referrals, launched a federal investigation. Grand jury subpoenas demanded 3 years of HOA financial records, shell company bank statements, and all communications between Victoria and Commissioner Davis. That evening, in their restored, peaceful backyard, watching the sunset paint the sky, the rumble of traffic replaced by birdsong and distant children's laughter, Olivia squeezed Ethan's hand. "It's really over, isn't it?" she asked softly. "Almost," Ethan replied, thinking of Joe Miller's tow trucks, strategically positioned. One more surprise for anyone still supporting her criminal enterprise. The federal courthouse in Dallas was packed like a championship game for Victoria Hayes' sentencing. Over 200 community members, reporters, federal prosecutors, all drawn by Ethan's meticulous evidence. Marble hallways echoed whispers and camera clicks. Ethan sat in the front row with Olivia and Lily, surrounded by their allies, now genuine friends. Mark in his dress uniform. Dr. Ramirez clutching medical testimony. Carol having organized a support group of 12 families Victoria had terrorized. The air thick with nervous sweat and expensive cologne. Judge Patricia Morrison entered, her presence grave. Prosecutors had presented 847 pieces of evidence over 3 days, every photo, video, document Ethan and Mac compiled. Victoria's court-appointed attorney looked utterly defeated. Victim impact statements began. Olivia, her voice steady, described workplace intimidation, threats against their family, how Victoria weaponized her career and terrorized Lily. The emotional weight in that courtroom was palpable. Dr. Ramirez testified about stress-related medical treatment for multiple residents. Mark presented his military perspective on Victoria's tactics violating civilized conflict resolution. 12 other families shared stories of intimidation, extortion, and property rights violations. The pattern was undeniable. Victoria ran a criminal enterprise, terrorizing homeowners into selling for pennies. When Victoria spoke, her attorney attempted leniency, citing desperation. But Victoria couldn't help herself. She launched into a rambling, incoherent speech about property values and community standards, sounding like a broken real estate ad. "Your Honor, I was protecting innocent families from hostile neighbors who refused to follow reasonable community guidelines," she shrieked, her voice rising. "These people wanted to drag down everyone's investments with their selfish behavior, Judge Morrison allowed 15 minutes of this before cutting her off. Watching Victoria rant about property values while facing federal prison was like complaining about parking tickets during a murder trial. The evidence was devastating. Laura Sterling's timeline showed systematic criminal behavior escalating from harassment to property destruction to environmental crimes. Security footage of vandalism, intimidation, midnight construction violations, financial records revealing $340,000 in embezzled funds. The environmental expert's testimony about permanent ecological damage. Federal law takes environmental crime seriously, especially with corruption and racketeering. The prosecution built an airtight case. Judge Morrison's explanation of criminal forfeiture was music to Ethan's ears. Victoria would surrender all crime proceeds, her house, investment properties, the repossessed BMW. Forfeited assets would compensate victims and fund environmental restoration. When the judge announced an 8-year federal sentence, the courtroom erupted in thunderous applause. Victoria's face went white. Commissioner Davis had already received 5 years. 3 city officials pleaded guilty. Media coverage was immediate. Jessica Riley's live broadcast reached 2.3 million viewers, explaining how one homeowner exposed corruption. National networks picked up the story. The environmental victory exceeded all expectations. $2.1 million in wetland restoration, funded by forfeiture. Ethan's property became the northern boundary of a new protected wildlife corridor. The EPA would use their case as a model. The property rights precedent was equally significant. Stone versus Willowbrook Commons HOA would be cited in law schools. The Texas legislature introduced the Property Owner Protection Act. Judge Morrison's final remarks echoed with constitutional authority. This case represents everything wrong with unchecked authority and systematic neighbor harassment. Mr. Stone's patience and documentation saved this community from years more abuse. Let this sentence serve as warning: property rights are not negotiable in America. The financial reckoning was swift. Civil lawsuit settlements awarded Ethan $480,000 in damages and attorney fees. RICO treble damages applied. The HOA's insurance paid additional environmental restoration. As federal marshals led Victoria away in handcuffs, she still pointed at Ethan, a petulant child. This is all his fault. Outside, Ethan and Olivia stood in the sunshine, surrounded by friends, against organized crime disguised as community management. Justice, sweet and profound. Ready to go home? Olivia asked, squeezing his hand. More than ready, Ethan replied, thinking of their peaceful gravel road. Let's celebrate freedom. Justice tastes sweetest when shared. Ethan donated $200,000 to establish the Willowbrook Veterans Scholarship. Olivia, Dr. Ramirez, and Mark joined the board. The first recipient, the son of a neighbor who supported them. Watching that young man receive his check, his veteran father wiping tears, reminded Ethan why he fought. Olivia's homemade cookies filled the community center as families celebrated. Environmental restoration exceeded expectations. Wetlands rehabilitated. Miller's Creek supporting returning wildlife. Rare painted buntings singing. Their morning songs replaced Victoria's diesel rumble. Ethan's gravel road became a low-impact nature trail, connecting the subdivision to the new preserve. Families now walked where Victoria tried to steal, learning from educational signs funded by her forfeiture money. The irony was delicious. Lily received a full scholarship to UT Engineering for her essay on standing up to bullies. She wants to specialize in environmental engineering, inspired by their wetland restoration. Olivia's promotion to assistant superintendent came with district-wide recognition. Their postponed Alaska vacation, funded by documentary appearance fees, felt like the perfect reward. Olivia's laughter echoing across pristine wilderness was the sweetest sound in years. Property values soared. Their house increased 45%. Neighboring properties gained value near the wildlife corridor. The area rebranded as Willowbrook Conservation Community. The Texas Property Owner Protection Act, inspired by their case, became law, requiring $2 million HOA liability insurance for officer misconduct, establishing a state ombudsman, and criminalizing harassment. Victoria's criminal legacy became a foundation for future protection. Joe Miller's towing business grew 300%, specializing in HOA accountability. Jessica Riley's Emmy-winning documentary Neighborhood Nightmare reached 15 million households, inspiring legislation in 12 states. The community transformed. Dr. Ramirez was elected HOA president with 89% of the vote, implementing transparent governance. Dues dropped from $2,400. Mark and Mac formed a private investigation partnership, helping 37 families. 3 families saved their homes using restitution payments. The community center, Victoria's former house, now hosted conflict resolution training. Their 3rd annual Freedom Road Festival drew 500 attendees. Barbecue smoke and children's laughter filled the air where Victoria's security guard once harassed visitors. Ethan and Olivia now consult for families facing similar harassment. Mac investigates corruption in other Texas communities. They joke about a traveling roadshow for property rights education. Children's laughter on their restored gravel road, mixed with bird songs from the protected wetland, perfectly captured the American freedom they fought for. Got your own HOA nightmare? Share it. You're not alone. Subscribe for more David vs. Goliath victories. Next week, Margaret Thompson, 72, who used medieval law to seize her corrupt city council's parking lot. The best revenge is living well and keeping detailed records. Patience and persistence always smash petty tyrants, especially when you document everything. Your HOA dues aren't their personal piggy bank. Drop a comment for more tales of neighborhood justice and Karen comeuppances.